Good evening and welcome to Feedback, Lincoln-Sudbury's cable news show. I'm Ben Hadar.
And I'm Jennifer Gordon. In this edition of Feedback, we'll take a look at recreational drug and alcohol use among students. We'll look at a feature on some students that spent their vacation overseas, and there's a report on the continuing delays concerning the completion of the new track. As always, the abuse of drug and alcohol are a deep concern to both students and parents. How do teenagers actually feel about the prevalence of these substances in day-to-day life? Raquel Jose and Nicole Halverson have the following report.
Attitudes towards drug and alcohol use among students at Lincoln-Sudbury. We decided to take a closer look inside Lincoln-Sudbury by asking students their opinions on these drug and alcohol-related issues. What do you feel is the general attitude towards drugs and alcohol use among students at LS?
I think that basically there's no problem at LS. I think it's a natural thing that occurs, you know, from teenagers, and I really don't think it's a problem.
What do you feel is the general attitude towards drugs and alcohol use among students at LS?
I don't think there's really a problem at all. But during the school week, I think everybody around's got a pretty good head on their shoulders about drugs and alcohol. And mostly it's not a case of addiction at all. Mostly it's something kids do on the weekends around here to kill time. Considering this is a small town, it's pretty boring. So considering it's not really an addictive thing around here at all, it's not a problem.
Chris, have you noticed a change in attitudes towards drugs and alcohol use since freshman year? And if so, how have these attitudes changed?
Well, I've noticed a change because as we got older, it's a lot easier to get drugs and alcohol, and the temptation's more because there's a lot more pressure, and a lot more people do that just to relieve the pressure of their lives about colleges and school and everything.
Okay, thanks. Have you noticed a change in attitude towards drug and alcohol use among students since freshman year?
Yeah, because well, freshman and sophomore year, I really didn't know so much about it, and then I guess as you get older and as you progress with your friends, you start to get more aware of it, and between your friends and some of your friends start doing it, and you become a lot of aware. Because since freshman year, I've learned a lot of negative against it between all my friends, and it's really gone into my friends as something that can be a daily use, and some people stay away from it. I mean, it depends on what kind of a person you are, you know, towards.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gould, South Hall housemaster here at Lincoln-Sudbury about these issues. What are the penalties for the use of or possession of drugs and alcohol on school property?
Well, you move that back a little bit. There are two penalties, actually. The first penalty for the use of drugs in school is ordinarily, it's up to 10 days suspension, but ordinarily it's 5 days suspension for the first offense and 10 days for the second. In both cases, with terms of drugs, the police are informed of the person, and of course the parents are informed. With alcohol, the penalties are roughly the same, although we don't usually inform the police for an alcoholic possession.
How many incidents of this nature have occurred this year? Approximately.
I guess that was approximately. I would say 7 or 8.
Have you noticed a change in attitudes among students towards drug and alcohol use throughout 4 years in high school?
Okay, that's a hard question because you're asking two. Have I noticed a change in the last 10 to 12 years? The answer is yes. And the major change is that alcohol is a much more commonly used drug, and probably the frequency of drugs in school is less now than it was 10, 15 years ago. In terms of, do kids' attitudes change? Sure, in 4 years. I think to freshmen and sophomores, oftentimes, I'm guessing, the response, and this is mostly outside of school, to drugs and alcohol is one of, it's exciting, it's grown up, it's a whole unexplored world. By the time kids are seniors, the majority of seniors have learned what place either drugs or alcohol are going to play in their life and deal with them, I think, relatively satisfactorily.
What would you say the general attitude of the faculty is towards students involved in drugs or alcohol?
I think the attitude of the faculty would be pretty much what the attitude of most adults would be. that in school, it's an absolute taboo. No teacher whom I've ever met
Yeah,
teach a kid
that's a good idea.
drunk, because that kid basically is unable to learn, or practically speaking, unable to learn. Outside of school use, most faculty, I think, would mostly be concerned about the two major issues that I think that everyone's concerned about, which is driving under the influence of either alcohol or drugs, or having a lifetime abuse problem in either one of those categories. I don't think most faculty get very concerned about students outside of school who sporadically, or even socially to some extent, use either one. And I would also maintain probably that's not really their responsibility to be concerned about those things. But abuse they're concerned about because they know some kids who have abused and like the kids and are concerned about their lives.
You have a son in senior year. Can you separate your feelings as a parent and as an administrator? Is that a conflict for you?
In terms of him?
In terms of drugs and alcohol use and...
Oh, yeah. My son has only been here for 3.5 years, and I've been dealing with kids in this building for 20 years, oftentimes on these issues. When he graduates, my attitudes, unless I'm very much mistaken, won't have changed at all. I mean, my issues with drugs and alcohol are, as I suggest they are for many teachers and administrators, are in-school use, which I consider always wrong, and out-of-school use that leads toward abuse, which I think is very frightening. And I think it's frightening for my own children as well as it is for children who go here who aren't my children. So that's not a conflict. No.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
As you can see, there are many different attitudes towards drugs and alcohol use at Lincoln-Sudbury, but that is to be expected at such a diverse school as ours. This is Nicole Halverson for Feedback.